Reaction across the country and in Hawaii: shock, dismay, and disgust. KITV4's Shane Enright is live in our newsroom with our continued team coverage. Shane?
Pamela, current and former members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, including Governor Neil Abercrombie, called the shooting tragic and senseless. Hawaii Congresswoman Mazie Hirono and Giffords entered Congress in the same freshman class in 2006. This is video of the class on the Capitol steps in Washington, D.C.
It's such a shocking tragedy, and especially for this to happen while Gabby was reaching out to her constituents.
Hirono says she last saw and spoke with Giffords last week.
Just a wonderfully warm person, and in fact, one of the most recent conversations I had with her was showing me how to add different applications to my iPad, and so I added CNN and NPR.
Hawaii Governor Neil Abercrombie served with Giffords on the U.S. House Armed Services Committee. In an email statement, Abercrombie says she is a true patriot and friend. I am hopeful for her successful recovery. My thoughts are with all of the families and victims affected by this insensible and tragic shooting. Republican Charles DeJoux, who won a special election in May, served on the Armed Services Committee with Giffords and says they collaborated over different matters in the House.
It couldn't have struck a more decent, kind woman. Anybody who knows or meets Gabby Gifford, the first thing that you'll be struck by is how enormously cheerful and peppy she is.
Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa, who was just sworn into her first term in Congress, also released a statement. Hanabusa says Congresswoman Giffords, her staff, and supporters were attacked while reaching out to their constituents, and it's my sincere hope that those responsible for this despicable act are punished to the fullest extent that the law allows.
It's an enormous tragedy that doing her job and being an effective congresswoman, she was struck down by this.
Clearly, the general reaction among Hawaii politicians is shock. Reporting live, Shane Enright, KITV4 News.
Shane, thank you. As we said earlier, at least 5 people died in today's shooting, including a federal judge and a 9-year-old girl. The judge is identified as 63-year-old John Roll, the chief district judge for the District of Arizona. He has been on the federal bench since 1991. Also dead is 30-year-old Gabe Zimmerman, Giffords' director of community outreach. The civic leader was engaged to be married and recently moved into a suburban residential complex. His next-door neighbor just happens to be a former Hawaii resident, Sue Roy, who spoke to KITV today.
He's a fairly new neighbor. He gave me his card. It says that he's on Giffords' staff, and he's a sort of a public representative. So he was with her. They were good neighbors, very good neighbors.
The names of the other victims, including the little girl, have not yet been released.